Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Jacob,
My name is Connor.
and you are listening to the No Responsibilities Podcast, a music podcast. Today we're going to be talking about one of my personal favorite bands, and a band that has made waves in the dream pop, shoegaze, alternative rock genre the past few years. Alvvays.
Alvvays is a Canadian band. They're from smaller town in Ontario.
Incorrect. They are from PEI originally, and they are now based out of Toronto.
Okay, well, fuck me then. Either way, they're from Canada, which is quite rare for a good artist to come into this country. No, that's not true. There's a fair amount, but it's nice to have somebody who's from our homeland that we enjoy.
Yes.
They only have 2 albums out. They're self-titled, and their second album, Anti-Socialites.
Yes, interesting combination of words there.
And they have really made a large splash in the music world with these 2 albums. Without ever cracking the mainstream, everyone still knows who they are if you're a fan of this type of music.
Exactly.
They really are the forerunners in there. I think they've influenced a lot of later acts as well, even though they've only been a band since early 2010s, let's just say.
Yeah.
Their first album coming out in 2014.
And some people may not know, but the lead singer, Molly Rankin, is related to the Rankin family, which is a famous Canadian group who has many awards across many different award shows. They were a country folk group and were super huge in Canada. And she is the daughter of one of the members of the Rankin family. So she's had musical and voice training since a very young age, which many people attribute to her success as a singer and also how good she is live.
Yeah, so she's really been surrounded by music her whole life and grew up knowing the industry and live performance and all that, as well as she had her into the industry, which probably helped in the early days of the band to get some opportunities and leading to their first album. Anyway, so how did you personally get introduced to Alvvays?
Well, my sister actually introduced me to Alvvays. She was listening, or we were driving, and I had put on, I believe it was a song by, I had put on a song by Best Coast, and then my sister had said, "Oh, if you like Best Coast, you'd really like this band." I was like, "All right, well, put it on then." And she had played "Marry Me, Archie" off of Alvvays' first
Excuse me,
album.
it's called Archie Marry Me, isn't it? It's not?
That's correct. Yeah, I messed it up. That's horrible. I listen to that album all the time. So she put on "Archie Marry Me," which was the very first song I ever heard of Alvvays, and I was instantly hooked. I was like, the first thing that caught me was Molly's voice. I was like, wow, like that's some amazing progressions. Just the sound. I'm not even going to talk about like the technical ability. It was just the way her voice carried, like just the sound. I was really shocked. And so I went home, downloaded the self-titled album, and basically listened to it nonstop for about a month. Then I obviously started listening to their second album, listened to that nonstop for about a month. And now I just have the 2 on repeat on my phone, like pretty much cycled always.
Yeah, I was in high school, not that long ago, but either way, I was in high school. I was sitting with a couple people outside, just sitting on the grass during lunch or whatever. And one of them put on the song Archie Marry Me. And I really liked it. And I was just hearing it out of a phone speaker, I think, or a cheap little speaker. But even then, I really liked it, so I Shazammed it.
Yeah.
And looked it up when I got home. And I remember I was actually laying in bed with my laptop. It was raining. It was like really atmospheric, one of those nights.
Yeah.
And I listened to Archie Marry Me on YouTube, with the music video. And that was one of those music experiences where you hear a song and it really, really, really connects with you.
Yeah.
And really, it's hard to explain. Like, it had a really profound impact on me. It was so good. It's like everything I've been looking for in music was that song.
Yeah.
And I listened to it probably 5 times that night, 10 times that night.
Yeah.
And from then I listened to the rest of the album, and I listened to it like crazy.
Yeah.
When I first heard it.
It was all I would listen to for a long time. And I'd say my moment like that with Alvvays was, it was like the first few days I had discovered them, and I was obviously looking into them a lot. and I had looked up. I can't remember the exact name of the show, but it was one of the very first live shows that was recorded and put on YouTube. And it was a Toronto music festival. I forget which one, but they had the full set on YouTube, and it was nicely recorded. And I think it was most of their songs off their first album, maybe songs off their new album. I can't quite remember, but I was just so into that, like that YouTube video, that live show, because they played so good, and I just couldn't even believe it. Because I'd obviously listened to the album before that, and then I saw this show, and I would just like sit up in bed at 2 a.m. just like watching this show, and I was like, wow, like this is live music. Like it was incredible.
Well, I remember watching one of their live shows on YouTube as well, and I love how the lead singer Molly, plays a Fender Jagstang, which is actually a guitar designed by Kurt Cobain.
Yeah.
Which is a mixture of the Fender Jaguar and Fender Mustang guitars, where Kurt actually put them together because they were his two favorite guitars. And Kurt died before the guitar was properly released. It came out in 95. But I think it's really cool how this is the guitar she plays.
Yeah.
She also plays the Mustang as well. But I just remember thinking that was really cool that she played that guitar. I tried to get one for myself, but they're very expensive.
Yeah. And just the whole style of the surrounding the band really drew me in. Just that aesthetic and what they were all about and how they acted in interviews. They just seemed very down to earth. They were all about the culture. They don't, the way they were conducting themselves, like they weren't trying to, get into the mainstream, but they were like rolling with the success they were having, you know, and they didn't. And when their second album came out, I was really happy just because they totally kept with their sound.
Yeah.
And they weren't like, and they improved upon certain things, which we'll talk about. But yeah, just their whole atmosphere really enticed me.
Yeah, they along with the music, the whole visual element, the album covers, the way they dress, the way they perform, the music videos, it all ties into each other very well, and it's a very well thought out look and aesthetic.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain what it is. It's kind of I can't even explain it. Boats and like fun fairs and like kind of like clothing that's kind of similar to 1960s clothing.
Just like
primary
colors.
Yeah, primary colors, very simple.
Yeah.
It's not vintage, but it feels like a style that could be old,
it's like,
but isn't.
I kind of think it's like neo vintage,
Yeah.
It's kind of like not a parody of it, but just like a modern revival version of like vintage culture in a way.
Yeah, and I love that whole thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's just talk about their first album, debut album, entitled Alvvays. I remember it doesn't happen as much now, but when they first came out, everybody was calling them Alvvays.
Yeah. My mom still says that whenever.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people do, but
yeah, whenever I wear a shirt, I have one of their shirts, and whenever I wear it, my mom's always like, "What is that band called again? Alvvays?" And I'm like, "Damn it, Mom! It's always."
Yeah.
Oh.
Hate that crap, Yeah, but so we obviously love this album.
Amazing. Sitting here right now, I honestly still can't make up my mind on which album I like more.
Well, we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
we'll go through the albums.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. But this album, from front to back, it's just so good. It's so consistent. Every song, to me, just fits the style perfectly. And I also love that, by the way, both their albums are recorded on tape. And that's one of the first things I noticed was how raw the recording sounds. And it just sounds, it sounds a bit like almost muted, but in a good way. Because it just fills out so much better.
Yeah, recording it on tape was very smart for the whole sound. And yeah, it has that very dry, very clean sound. Yeah, it's just the way tape sounds. It really worked with their music. Fun fact, I don't know if you know this, their first album was recorded here in Calgary.
Really?
In a studio downtown near 17th Avenue for any of our Calgary watchers. I don't know if the studio is still there, but it was done here by Calgary producer Chad Van Galen. Heard of him?
Yep.
He's from Calgary, and he produced the album. I think. Could be wrong.
Yeah.
But that's what I think. If I'm wrong, please tell me how stupid I am.
Yeah.
But I think that's true. But anyway, this album, good front to back. I love almost every song. They all fit together so well. They complement each other. They all have a tone that matches and creates a perfect little record.
Mm-hmm. And for me, this album, it's one of those albums where I literally went through phases of different sections of the album where I got obsessed with those songs.
Uh-huh.
Like when I first listened to it, my favorite songs were Party Police, Agency Group, and Archie Marry Me. But like what I'm saying is that like when I first listened to it, like the first 3 songs I like loved, and I would always like start it from the beginning. And then like 2 weeks into listening to it, I got really into like Next of Kin, Party Police, and Agency Group, and I would always like start the album in the middle when I would listen to it. And then I'd say right now, or listening to it all the way now, I really love the songs Atop a Cake and Red Planet. So whenever I listen to it, I always start the album at number 8 and then let it start at the beginning. And that just like shows how good each song is. That like I could start the album anywhere and I get so into it.
Yeah, it really is kind of show how you can be introduced to their music with the more not radio friendly but more easy listening songs like Archie Marry Me, Party Police. And then you get into the slightly more experimental, kind of more unique songs like Dives, Red Planet. Red Planet is such a good song, which I didn't like it at first, but it's I've never heard anything like that song.
And I'm a huge sucker for like a good kind of love breakup, just love drama album. And this album just has so many good songs like that. And it totally fits the kind of fall, wintry, but you know what I mean? It kind of fits that fall, walking through the leaves kind of.
Walking through the trees.
walking through the trees vibe. And they're always talking, a lot of the lyrics are about kind of like indecision, about whether someone, feels the same way about you. And then like also certain songs are about like letting go. It's just a really good, it's just for me personally, it's just like an emotional journey type of album, which I love.
One thing that I noticed about this band that I like is how they always find really big words to put in the songs.
Yeah.
Even if it's kind of a weird fit.
Yeah.
Like biology. And I can't think of the examples, but if you listen through it, they have a lot of kind of big words that are, it's hard to explain, but you know what I mean?
I know.
I'm trying to think of more.
Actually in Archie Marry Me, I'm going to totally butcher this word because I don't even know what she's saying. She says...
Matrimony?
Well, not matrimony. She says like, indignation, hey. I don't know what she's saying there.
Yeah, I don't know. But they find all these big words that... I don't know. It's
probably look at the lyrics.
It's like scientific songwriting.
No, the way that Molly like works with putting her words into the melodies always amazes me, because I feel like a lot of other artists could maybe use the same melodies, but they would just fill it with a lot simpler words. But she just finds a way to tell a really good story and still make it insanely interesting, which I should mention is one of the most amazing things to me about this album is the melodies. Like,
yes, that's...
I was obsessed with how good Alvvays' melodies were. Like when I first started listening to them, it's just like each song has like such a different melody, and they're always so like you just hear her voice go up and down, and you just feel like you get lost in the music.
Yes, it's the mix between the quality of the melodies and how magical they sound, for lack of a better term. The melodies mixed with just the way she delivers them with her voice. I've never heard a voice like hers.
No.
Like it's very hard for me to explain.
Yeah.
But I think anybody who listens to their music will know what I'm talking about. Just the way it flows in and out and sways, and just the way she sings. That mixed with the instrumentation just works so well.
Yeah. I also love the way that they start songs. I feel like a lot of bands can get caught up in starting songs the same way, and that can make things sound a little dry. But even though they have a style that is very distinct, they still find a way to make like each song differ from the other one. Like Adult Diversion just starts off right away, just with that down to down to down, and then you have songs like Archie Marry Me, which are very like, slow in the beginning, like da na na na
Mm-hmm.
na 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 na, and then you got like Red Planet, which is like a totally different vibe starting off than the rest of the album,
Yeah.
and like Atop a Cake, which starts with it's like kind of like like not bells, but like kind of like droning things, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
just
Well, having a keyboard player as well really helps them with that
mhm,
because I love the mixture of the guitars and the effects pedals and the reverb and all that, but throwing in a little bit of keyboard,
mhm,
yeah, it just kind of brings the songs up a little bit better and makes them a little more interesting to listen to.
mhm.
But so tough question. What would you say your favorite song off of the first album is? Because I would have trouble answering that one.
I would say that my all-time favorite song off the album is Party Police, but I would say that my current favorite song is Atop a Cake.
You know, I would probably say my favorite one is Next of Kin.
Mm-hmm.
But Archie Marry Me, it's their most famous song, but it's so good, so it's hard not to say that one as well. So it's gonna be a toss up between those two. I know those are probably more of a typical answer to that question, but that's how I feel.
I will say though that one of the best live songs I have seen Always twice now.
Yeah, we're gonna get into the live.
Yeah, we're gonna get into the live stuff, so I don't want to talk too much about it right now. But I will say that one of their best live songs is "Ones Who Love You," because the whole stage goes quiet, all the crowd goes quiet, and Molly just has a really personal kind of moment with that song, and it's super touching to hear live.
So we'll get into their second album,
Mm-hmm.
their newest album from 2017, Anti-Socialites. It was a very long-awaited album. I remember being really excited for this, and it was a big deal when it came out.
Yes.
I will say off the bat, I do prefer their first album,
Mm-hmm.
but another really high-quality follow-up.
See, that's something that I would have agreed with, because when I first heard this album, of course, amazing, I love it, but I was always of the mind that's like, oh, the first album can't beat that. It's amazing. But the more I listen to the second album, I almost like it's making it harder and harder for me to say I like the first album more, because this album's just so good, and it's not that there were things wrong with the first album, but it just seems like they improved on a lot of things in this album. And I feel like a lot of the reason why I used to say that the first album was better was just because it had that more like emotional connection to me, because it was like the first stuff I heard from them.
Yeah.
But these songs are also amazing.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Yeah, I remember they came out with the single, I think it was In Undertow was the first single.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great song. And then the whole album followed. The whole thing, all 10 songs.
Yeah.
Similar to the first album, luckily.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to change their sound yet.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, it is a bit more of an evolution. It's a bit faster, slightly, a little bit more along the alternative rock lines, just slightly.
Yeah, and it's more, I'd say, like, not upbeat. Well, yeah, it is a little bit more upbeat, and it's also they're both recorded on tape, but it's also a bit more a bit more clean.
Yeah.
But there's certain songs that I do feel like they were not experimenting with a different sound, but they just took the kind of dream pop sound to a different place. Like Dreams Tonight is very like, I don't even know how to say it. It almost feels like synthy, but it's not at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, they kind of bend the whole genre around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Pimsoil Punks has a little bit of rock in there.
Plimsoul.
Plimsoil Punks.
Yeah.
Tiny bit of rock influence.
Yeah.
Not as much in the instrumentation, but in the songwriting and the energy.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have more chilled out songs like Saved by a Waif.
Yeah.
What is a waif?
I'm not sure,
You
but
know?
that's definitely one of my favorite songs. I think it has something to do with. I believe it's something to do with the ocean. I think it's a dock. I'm not totally sure.
That would make sense.
I'm actually gonna. Okay, never mind. I was completely wrong.
What is it? A wafer cracker?
I think there's a term close to what sounds like waif that has something to do with docks or boats. But a waif is a homeless, neglected, or abandoned person, especially a child.
Weird.
That makes a lot of sense with the song. Can't believe I've never actually looked into that.
Yeah, you gotta do some research.
Yeah, so that song has... Oh, fuck. That song has incredible melodies. And just... To me, it's just the way her voice changes so much in just such a short amount of time. You know, it's like, in the line, now that you're not my baby, I go do whatever I want. Don't have to turn around and see what's behind me. Just like in those little amount of lines, it goes from like down to up to mid to down to up.
Yeah.
And again, it's incredible.
Also just the way her voice is when she's going from a lower note to a higher note, the way it
Perfectly transitions. Yeah. Yeah.
wait,
Exactly.
kind of, that's kind of actually is the way it goes.
Yeah.
It's not just ooh, it's like ooh.
Yeah.
Like it flows and sways like an ocean.
Exactly, bro.
So now we're at the question. Which album is better? Always or Antisocial Lights? Which some people keep calling Antisocial Teas. Wrong. Antisocialites.
They say it in the song Dreams Tonight. They say the word.
Yeah.
And
Pay attention.
And she says antisocialites.
Yeah. What's better?
I can't answer.
I think the first album.
I can't answer that question because I like them both so much.
All right, you can rate them the same.
I have to give them a tie. They're just both so good.
Yeah.
I can't even.
Well, I would honestly give these albums like 95%
Yeah.
rating.
If we were reviewing music when these came out, I would have given the first album like a 98 and the second album like, I don't know. I think if I had reviewed it right away, I would have given it like a 96 or 5.
Yeah.
But later I would have given
Like,
it the same.
There's not a single flaw with either of these albums. There's nothing I can say really that is bad. Like this is if I were to design a perfect album for me, it's this.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like to say that because there's obviously problems with everything, but
Well, yeah, I mean
but for these albums, like I can't single out one thing and be like this is a problem. This is a thing that needs to be fixed because it's making things worse. Like I just can't find anything like that.
Yeah.
Like the only thing you could maybe say a little bit is that some songs sound a bit the same, but I would even disagree with that because I think that each song has its own unique qualities.
Mm-hmm. So we'll talk about the live performances. As you said, you've seen them twice.
Yes.
You saw them right when Antisocialites came out.
Yeah, I saw them
2017.
Well, I saw them in 2018.
18.
So it was after, but yeah, they were still touring very much to promote that album.
Yeah. And then you saw them again last week.
I saw them this weekend, yes, on Saturday.
So you saw them like 4 days ago.
Yeah, I saw them 4 days ago, which is why a lot of this is going to be right in my head. But yeah, the first time I saw them, it was at the Palace Theater here in Calgary. And the second time I saw them on Saturday, it was in Banff. Shout out to Banff National Park in the Rocky Mountains in Canada. They played at this really beautiful venue. It was outdoors.
And we'll show some footage of this.
Yes,
that
and
you got.
See the mountains in the background. They played kind of at golden hour, so it was like it looked like a dream. And then you're hearing dream-like music. It's pretty incredible.
I felt like you were in one of their music videos.
Yeah, but what I'll say about their live music is that, for starters, her voice is like indistinguishable from the albums. Like obviously every live performance, every singer has a voice crack or something, but her voice is so good live. I can't even begin to describe it. It's like there's certain bands that you go see them live and you're like, wow, that sounded nothing like the album. Like live, they suck. But Always just sounds, and I'm putting too much focus on Molly. Like the whole band just executes perfectly, and the way that they handle performing all those crazy distortions and reverbs and like overlays and leads is insane because it's super intricate on the albums and they replicate it live.
Yep.
which is crazy.
Well, I mean, that's the one of the allures of tape is when you record to tape, you're just recording the band and the way you sound. There's no editing, absolutely nothing to manipulate the sound. So if they record the album the way they perform, that's how it's going to sound.
Exactly.
And all of the effects and the way it sounds is coming from their guitar pedals because Molly and the other guitar player are really great for coming up with different sounds and tones. So if they play live with the same stuff they recorded with, it's going to sound the exact same. And that also showed that's one testament to how you can define a band that is good. They know how to play, they know how to write, and they don't need to rely on Pro Tools.
Yeah. And something else that I noticed both times I saw them is that Molly just takes over the room. Like, she has this angelic stage presence. Like, I can't even describe it. She just, like, gives off this energy, and when she plays, she just, like, you can just tell that everyone in the room is feeling the same things that she's feeling. And yeah, and just the way she moves around and talks, it's just like, it's incredible.
So did they? Which was the better show, the indoor or the outdoor show?
I think the indoor show was longer. They played a bit more songs, and because it was dark, it was a bit more, I'd say, I don't know, a bit more like atmospheric. But the outdoor show was just like, it was a different experience. It's like seeing them in outside, sound carries a bit differently. Just that it was in the daylight, you could see the mountains all around you. It was definitely a different full experience, but I think I enjoyed it more just because of the setting.
Yeah. And so it's the last album came out in 2017. It's now 2019. It was a 3-year period in between their first and second album, so hopefully that means we have an album to look forward to maybe next year.
I'm really hoping. I can't wait for their next release.
What are you hoping for, / what do you think they're going to go for?
Honestly, I really hope that they kind of surprise me, but not in a really different sound kind of way. I don't think I know what I want, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're going to release it, and I'm going to be like, oh, I didn't even know I wanted this, but this is what I wanted. I do want them to stay with their sound. I think if they, like, have a trio of albums that are, strictly to their dream pop sound, that would be nice, and then I would like to see them kind of experiment later on.
Yeah.
But right now, if they just release another consistent album that sounds similar, I'd love that. And maybe if on the third album they would kind of go more to each extreme.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, like, these albums are very, like, there isn't a lot of, like, really quiet songs and really loud songs. They're mostly, like, mid-range, have some faster elements, have some slower elements. But if on the next album they went, like, really soft and acoustic kind of on some songs, and then went like more raunchy on others, like, I would really love that.
Yeah, like go deeper into the synths. Like, let's have a song that's all done on the keyboard.
Yeah.
Or let's see them go deeper into weird guitar effects. Or like, I don't want them to change their sound, reinvent themselves, try and evolve too hard. But yeah, just dig deeper into the kind of avenues they've opened up with the first 2 records.
Yeah. Man, I feel like I'm getting so much out because I just love this band so much that I feel like I'm exhausting my brain. Like, I'm trying to think of the next thing to say, but I know I have so much to say about them.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'd love to go deeper one day. We could do a podcast focused just on one of their albums and go song by song. If you guys are interested in that, let us know. I hope I get to see them live. I've never seen them.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't see them when they came to Calgary, because I was a fan right from 2014. But when they come back, I will surely be there. Yeah. I think that's probably all we can say about them for now.
Yeah. Actually,
something else?
I just realized something, which might be interesting. I can't find exactly what Always Self-Titled was recorded on. It doesn't say, but Anti-Socialites says that it was recorded with a combination of Pro Tools and Tascam 488 8-track recorder. So
Well, because often what you'll do is you'll record a tape and then you'll put it into a computer.
yeah,
And you'll make slight adjustments.
yeah. I just think it's interesting that it specifically mentions that Antisocial Lights obviously was recorded on tape, but then it had some Pro Tools in there. But yeah, it doesn't even specify with self-titled, which might have been just purely tape, not really any editing. But
Yeah, well, you have to feed tape into a digital device to
yeah, obviously.
digitize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they really did anything on the Pro Tools other than maybe very slight adjustments, but it's tape in my mind.
Yeah. Oh, I also did want to say that I like that Alvvays has stayed with a Canadian record label all this time, Royal Mountain Records.
They've stayed indie.
And they do have different labels for their other countries that they release in. Like for US, they're Polyvinyl, and for Europe, they're Transgressive. But they've always stayed with Royal Mountain, which I really like because they're paying it back home, which is nice.
And they did a really nice pressing of their first album. I remember buying it, and it's this really cool blue and white wash color, which they didn't indicate on the. I love it when they don't say blue vinyl on the package.
Yeah.
So I just opened it, and
very pleasantly surprised.
this cool looking album came out.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So we'll wrap it up now.
Yes.
Thank you very much for listening. We appreciate it. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you very much.
We have other podcasts on a lot of other bands we like, so go check out those if you enjoyed this one.
And we'll be doing some more. So if you have a suggestion for a band you'd like to hear us talk about, we know everything about music. We've heard every band out there. So if you want us to get in there, we will. Have a lovely day, night, evening, afternoon, winter, summer, fall,
Wherever you
or any other season there may be.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Ah!